Imagine standing in the middle of 1,300 acres of absolute silence, where the only thing louder than the wind is the weight of your own secrets. A drone flies high over an Oklahoma ranch, catching a glimpse of something the public was never supposed to see. At the edge of the property, near a rusted metal barrel, Blake Shelton stands alone as the sun begins to bleed into the horizon. He's holding a stack of papers, and as he tosses them into the flames, the internet did what it does best. It zoomed in. Frame by frame, the world watched as a familiar handwriting began to curl and turn to ash. Some swear those loops belonged to Gwen Stefani. Others, they say that handwriting looks decades old, the kind of letters only Miranda Lambert would write. But here's what every headline missed. What happened in the 24 hours before that fire? This isn't just a story about a country star cleaning out a closet. This is a psychological autopsy of a man who realized that the empire he built was standing on a foundation of ghosts. We're talking about the invisible thread that connects Blake, Gwen, and even Kelly Clarkson, three titans of music who turned their private wreckage into platinum records. Stay with me, because by the time the second sunrise hits this ranch, everything you thought you knew about Blake Shelton's happy life is going to be dismantled. The day didn't start with a camera crew or a script. It started in a kitchen, half lit by the cold gray light of 5 a.m. You know that feeling, right? When the silence in your house is so heavy it actually feels like a physical weight on your chest. Blake reaches for a coffee mug. It's a simple white glaze, chipped near the handle. To anyone else, it's a piece of junk. But fans with eagle eyes stopped cold when they realized the truth. That mug was a gift from Miranda Lambert, years before the lawyers and the headlines took over. He doesn't smile. He doesn't cry. He just stares at the steam rising, a man moving on complete autopilot. This is the in-between phase of grief that nobody talks about, where you aren't sad anymore, you're just empty. It makes you wonder, why do we keep the very things that remind us of the people who broke us? Is it a way of holding on or a way of punishing ourselves? I'm curious to know your take on this. Have you ever kept something from an ex just because you couldn't bring yourself to throw the memory away? Drop a comment below. I want to read your stories. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join the family. We're deep diving into the real stories Nashville tries to keep quiet every single week. Done? Now, let's get back to the moment the fire started. By mid-morning, the ranch feels less like a sanctuary and more like a mirror. There's nothing in Oklahoma to block your thoughts, and for Blake, those thoughts are getting loud. He's out there fixing a fence post that's already sturdy. It's the classic sign of a mind that won't cooperate, giving the hands a job so the heart doesn't have to think. Most people skip these hours in a documentary, but this is where the desire gap lives, the gap between who Blake is on The Voice and who he is when the red light goes off. Think about Gwen Stefani for a second. Before the perfect romance we see now, she was drowning in the wreckage of 13 years with Gavin Rossdale. She didn't just lose a husband, she lost her sense of reality. And Kelly Clarkson? She turned her divorce into a literal survival guide for millions. All three of them carry the same invisible bruises. And on this specific afternoon, Blake decided he was done carrying his. He walks back into the house and pulls a vinyl record from a shelf he hasn't touched in a decade. The House That Built Me. Miranda's voice starts filling the room. It's a haunting choice. Imagine sitting in the house you once shared, listening to the voice of the person you lost, while the walls themselves seem to lean in to listen. He doesn't flip the record when it ends. He lets the needle scratch at the end of the groove for an hour. This isn't a movie scene. This is what a breakdown looks like when no one is watching. And then comes the barrel, the drone footage that sent the internet into a tailspin. He carries those papers out like they weigh 100 pounds. These aren't legal documents. They're wrinkled. They've been read so many times the ink is fading. As the first page hits the fire, you can see the tension leave his shoulders for the first time in 24 hours. But he doesn't look happy. He looks like a man who just performed surgery on himself without anesthesia. The internet spent weeks analyzing the handwriting, trying to find a villain in the story. Was it a letter from Gwen that triggered a memory, or a final goodbye from Miranda that he finally found the courage to burn? But they're looking at the wrong thing. It's not about whose name was on the paper. It's about the fact that Blake needed the fire to feel clean again. As the second sunrise hits the porch, Blake is seen sitting in an old swing, still wearing the same boots from the day before. He's exhausted, but the air around him feels different. The record player is finally off. The chipped mug is back in the cupboard. He isn't erasing his past. He's just finally stopped letting it keep him a prisoner in his own home. The painful truth Miranda spoke about wasn't a secret scandal. It was the reality that even 1,300 acres isn't enough space to hide from yourself. In the end, we all have that metal barrel at the edge of our lives. We all have letters we need to burn and mugs we need to throw away. Blake Shelton's 24 hours of silence wasn't a PR stunt. It was a masterclass in how to let go. Because you don't have to burn the house down to start over. You just have to be brave enough to strike the first match.